Welcome to Changing Narratives. I'm your host, Brother Jay, and I'm excited to be joined today by two distinguished guests, Lorin Crenshaw and Ken Lumpkins, both of whom are making a powerful impact in business and in our community. They are leaders within the organization 100 Black Men of Greater Kansas City, an organization committed to mentoring, educating, empowering Black youth and families across the region. Their work is rooted in the belief that what they see is what they'll be. One of the organization's signature events is the upcoming Power100 Summit, taking place July 17th through the 19th. This three-day experience is designed to cultivate leadership, connect professionals, and inspire the next generation of change makers. I want to thank you guys for joining me today. So let's start with this. Since Ken, you are the president of the organization, talk to us about the history of 100 Black Men and its start in Kansas City.
Okay. Well, the 100 Black Men of America is our national organization, and it's really probably somewhat of a misnomer. We're really an international organization, and so there's a chapter in London and in the Caribbean, but the 100 Black Men started in New York in 1963, and it was really about this idea of the concern for the African American community, and this collective saw the need in some issues, and so they were really sort of addressing some immediate community issues for the Black community, even around jobs and security and things of that nature, and they really rallied together and to rallied for the cause of action, and how can we support the community, how can we support our youth and things of that nature. And so the organization started in New York, and then it just developed through the years. And so in 1986, there was a national convening in Washington. And again, that's when the organization became 100 Black Men of America. Mm-hmm. And the organization evolved from there. And again, really just this sense of, what can we do for the community? When it became a national organization is really when they really leaned into more of the youth focus and the mentoring focus. Okay. And it's fortunate that in Missouri we have the last living member of the national organization with us, Jesse Swanigan. He's actually in St. Louis. Okay. And so we're part of our Kansas City chapter is part of what we call the Jesse Swanigan region, but he's still active today. I was just on a Zoom call with him, and he's 92 years old just last week. Wow, and so awesome. To have our founding member in our region part of what we do, and so I get to go back and forth when for some reason he thinks St. Louis has some good barbecue. I don't know anything about that, so we have to. Right. But anyway, but it's great to have. So not only are we tied to a great organization, we have the leaders within that founded our organization here in our community, and he was here last year when we hosted a summit. Mm-hmm. But really as a local organization, we started in 2006. Okay. And so really just this, I describe the organization as leaders in service. You take those two pieces and it really describes, the 100, the core of what we do in terms of that service, but that leadership. It's not, in anybody organization, we look for people that are leaders. And and that ties directly to our one of our trademark statements, which you said what they see is what they'll be. And so when you think about our youth and pointing them into the right direction, you want people that are leaders. You want people that are morally upright, or at least try to be. Yes. And that's our goal, and to pour back into those youth and show them the way, as well as people that can be reflective of success to show, hey, you can do it too. So that's kind of, some of those tenets. But mentoring became the foundation of the organization. And so the organization nationally is proud to be, the largest African American mentoring organization, and so that's what we sort of hang our hats on. And then we have these community service pillars that we'll talk about as well.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And so you have been president for the last 2 years?
Exactly. So I'm in my second year.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But congratulations.
Thank
and I do want to bring you into the conversation as well, Lorin. So what led you to joining 100 Black Men, and how long have you been in the organization?
Sure. I've been in the organization for about 17 years, and I actually joined in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My career has taken me from New York City to Baton Rouge, where I became a part of the organization there, then to Charlotte, North Carolina, then to Houston, and now to Kansas City. I say the Lord opens doors and I just walk through them.
Right.
But all along the way, I take the 100 with me. And what I found over the years in all those cities is that you have what we like to call real men giving real time. This is not an organization that you join for any sort of social perks. You don't join unless you want to give real time.
Yes.
Why would you? Because that's exactly what we're going to ask of you, is to come in and contribute to one of our four, what we call four for the future, which is mentoring at the foundation, education, health and awareness, and economic development. And so if you're a real man looking to give real time, then that's the kind of person that we're looking for. And so that was what I was drawn to, and specifically financial literacy. There's no other organization that, in my mind, had a platform for me to express my passion for financial literacy, like the 100 Black Men's Dollars and Cents program, which we'll talk about later. But that was the magnet for me as well.
Yeah, we will definitely jump into that. And I'm so glad that you did bring up those four focuses. And so when we're talking about mentoring, education, health and wellness, and economic empowerment. And before I go any further, we want to make sure you go to 100blackmenkc.com for information on how you can volunteer and support the organization. And so, like I said, bringing up those four pillars. And so moving into the job fair that you guys have coming up. Talk to us about, do they go to the 100 Black Men KC to register for the job fair? And then just kind of talk to us about, some of the participants in the job fair as far as employers.
Sure. So the job fair, and we call it a career and hiring fair, and the word hiring is specific because sometimes if we were to say job fair or career fair, it becomes an exhibit where people just stroll by a table, and I heard someone phrase it in a good fashion in terms of hiring, because we want people to actually leave with jobs. And so it's not just this idea of exhibition. It's really about, this fruit at the end of this. And so Thursday, July 17th at UMKC in the Student Union, we'll hold our career and hiring fair. And we call it, placed a name with it, and we call it For Hire. And so the whole idea, if we were to look at it, and we probably should step back and say, well, it's all part of what we call a Power100 Summit. It's a 3-day summit. And we'll kind of talk about some of this as we talk about dollars and cents. But one of the things that we train, our youth, our mentees on are these ideas of of a cash flow quadrant. And the cash flow quadrant really takes participants through 4 modes of how to make money, starting with their jobs, business development, and investment. And so there are different stages of business development in terms of self-employed or business ownership. So that's really kind of how this summit is designed. So again, starting with the job, the idea is really how can we create multiple streams of income? And so the job being, your first step. And so that's where we start. So that's the idea of having this career fair. So we're giving people their stepping stones into multiple streams is really how this comes about. And so the career fair is especially important now as we look at the state of economy and the state of affairs that affects so many different things. We're actually hosting this event on UMKC's campus. And so graduation was just last month, and some of the recent reports were about how college students are having a difficult time because, on one hand, it's AI and automation.
Yes.
And so if you don't have the skills and the history and you're trying to get a job, you're at a loss in terms of the opportunity when there are other people that are striving. And the other impact is just some of the current administration's policies, including tariffs. Well, that affects businesses and business growth, meaning that, well, I'm going to wait and see. So now you've got people in a wait and see mode, and they can't get jobs. So when you think about that, just one segment and how important it is to find employment. So I've got, articles and all sorts of things that people are just struggling to the point of tears in terms of finding employment. And the world moves so fast that, they say, even, a few years ago, computer technology was the most important thing. Hey, get your computer software degree. And now that's already changed because the lower level folks in computer science still are again competing with AI that's far ahead, much further ahead than they are. And so when you start, bringing all these pieces to bear, and then you think about the black community specifically, black women in particular have had a harder time in this economy. And so there are all sorts of stats that about the decline, and part of that is because even the decrease in the federal job market, and that a lot of blacks, that used to be the pathway to having some sturdy income and creating a legacy by getting a federal job. So now you get those black folks that have those steady jobs, and now that's been pulled away. And so when you think about the importance and you tie all these pieces again, that career and hiring fair makes sense. And so we want to, have an opportunity for people to come get jobs. But something we started a few years ago, really over a decade ago with the 100, I created this, what we call Network with the 100, where we created executive speed networking. And that's a special at this particular event because sometimes people will say, hey, speed network, and I've done that before, and they'll bring an HR manager or something of that nature to the experience. We say executive because that means I'm bypassing the HR manager. I'm bypassing the manager. I'm getting the real from people that are either a director or chief level positions. And so when you think about, some of the leading brands that are in the company that are global leaders, I mean, from, Garmin International to Oracle, Hill's Pet Nutrition. I mean, the list goes on in terms of, the larger companies in the area, bringing executives that you can speak one-on-one with. So if you have a career question or you're interested in that particular business, you can ask one-on-one with an executive. Or if even if you have a business interest, so a lot of these same companies have supplier programs and things of that nature. Again, creating those relationships with a conversation with people that you normally can't get 15 minutes with, you can get that 10 to 15 minutes with this particular setup. So that's just a part of the program, and we have workshops and things as well.
That is awesome. And so for our audience, the Career and Hiring Fair is Thursday, July 17th from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. at UMKC, the Student Union, and that's at 5100 Cherry Street, Kansas City. And you can register for free at the Power100Summit.com. That's Power100Summit.com that you can register for free. And, for anyone that's been paying attention and you see the jobs report that came out today, it's very important that you can get in front of people. And in an area like Kansas City that you can start to establish relationship and network with people, because that is is just as important as the degree, or whatever it is, whatever skills you have. You have to be able to establish relationships.
15.
Okay.
And Jay, on that point, we started with one section of the cash flow quadrant, but it's a powerful concept, because at this conference, yes, if you're in what's called the E quadrant for employee, that is everything that Ken just covered. But then there's the self-employment box, which relates to an alternative stream of income where you are your own employer.
Okay.
Whether you are the owner of a marketing firm, as Ken is, or whether you are a barber, or whether you are an employee who's thinking of some sort of a side gig, we're going to have programming for that self-employment box. But then on the other side of the quadrant, which is where a lot of the wealth is, you have business ownership, where you own stakes in businesses, where your time does not drive the profitability, but your equity stake drives the check in the mail. Okay. And then you have investments, which are your classic stocks, bonds, et cetera. And so in a time when the e-box is tenuous, this is a conference where people should feel empowered to not just go to the career fair, but to explore each aspect of the cash flow quadrant, because you need all those engines going to drive wealth. But not everybody knows how to drive those engines. And so it's a multifaceted conference across the entire quadrant. And so it'll be something there for everybody.
That is awesome. And we are up against our first break. So if you're just tuning in, you are listening to 90.1 FM KKFI, Kansas City Community Radio. This is Changing Narratives, and we'll be back. All right, and we are back, and you are listening to 90.1 FM, KKFI, Kansas City Community Radio. This is Changing Narratives with Brother Jay, and we have two very special guests on the show today, Lorin Crenshaw and Ken Lumpkins. And before we went to break, Lorin was breaking down the four quadrants, and we are going to have to definitely spend some time and maybe have a whole show where you really break that down. But I want to get back to the summit, and for those, we want to make sure that you go to Power100, Power Summit 100, .com to register, and there's free registration. I'm sorry.
One more time.
Power100 Summit.
Yeah, Power100 Summit. .com to register for free. And so for those who are going to register, and especially for our recent grads, what advice would you give those that are coming to the hiring fair and talking to, if they want to talk to that executive, or they're looking to be an employee? What advice do you give to those?
Yeah, I'd always advise people to do a little research. One, you always research, companies and things of that nature. But the first piece should really start with yourself, in terms of, owning your talent, your interests, and the opportunity. There should be some investigation. I mean, I'm always encouraging young folks, even when they're in high school, to figure out what they want to do. And I think sometimes people, when I was in school, it was fine to tell people, hey, well, you've got time to, figure out, take the first 2 years and figure out what you want to do while you're in college. That's not what I advise people to do, because, there are people, it's sort of like investing. There are people that have decided what they want to do in high school, or they started investing and now they're, multimillionaires because they started early. The same thing in terms of career. The better, it's better for you to figure it out early and think about the future and think about that planning piece. And so if you do that work prior to coming, it will help you. So the career piece is secondary to that part in terms of doing that self-assessment. But have your resume and things of that nature. And so sometimes we interview folks that are really haven't had the coaching that they need in terms of the resume, the appearance, or their personal appearance. This is one that, you're actually live in front of people. We're beyond the COVID days where,
Right.
you're doing the interviews. You may have a tie on up here
Right.
and in pajamas. So,
Right.
so you have to understand that when you got, and an impression is everything. And so I would think along those lines. However, we do have support and understand, because we understand that people are at different levels. So in addition to, exhibits and we have panel discussions. So we have 3 panels there. So one more in terms of resume and preparing on that end. Others in terms of, the workforce, the future of the work. So we're talking about AI and things of that nature. And then workplace dynamics as well. So a lot of people get culture shocked by going into a corporate environment and not knowing how to navigate in terms of, relationships, communications, or even managing remote and hybrid. I mean, there's so much soft skills, so that type of deal. So again, that's the purpose of having those workshops in addition. But it's free. Just register in advance. We encourage especially any adult, but college students as well. And again, these relationships are really key. And so when you think about the difference in terms of you can be one in 500 resumes online and hope that it's not just a computer, or you can come see some folks in real life and get some real information. And so I think that's the part of the benefit here.
And
Right.
of course, we would encourage that people, adults and students who are right out of college, go to the Power100 Summit website, see what companies are there, go to their website so that when you get your 15 minutes, it's specific. I went to the website, I see these 3 jobs, have your pitch together so you can execute.
Right.
Because if you're high in the sky and not quite sure, but you'll just walk away with a flyer on the company.
Right.
See you later. So maximize the moment by doing the research in advance. And if there are companies that don't have anything relevant, well, that's probably not where you ought to be. You should just focus on those 6 that have jobs that are right on point and go in there and execute. So that's the way that I've always done it. And I think that would be good advice.
Right, absolutely. And like you said, this is a hiring fair. And so come prepared, that you're going to get a job. And so you want to look the part, speak the part, and, do, like you said, do a little bit of research before you put yourself in front of someone expecting them to employ you. So,
Right.
And I'd say one more thing in terms of this quadrant. I mean, as Lorin mentioned, if, there's this self-employed piece. And so when you think about more gig workers and freelance artists and Upwork and things of that nature, we have a segment in this in the hiring fair that's for people of that nature, but more of a demo station. So say you're an artist and you're looking for a job. Well, there's one step to say, well, you meet someone and let's arrange a meeting. Let's have coffee. Let's do all this stuff later. No, we're saying, hey, in this moment, if you've got your computer, let's hook it up to this monitor, this demo station. Let's show your work. Let's have that conversation. So there's a live opportunity to demonstrate your work outside of just, arranging for future dates. So, so again, everything is about this moment. Time is money. So what can we do now? If you don't have a job or you need a better position, we want to get you closer to the mark by providing those opportunities.
Right, that is awesome. That is awesome. And so, along with the job fair, you also have the networking extravaganza on Friday, July 18th, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And that's going to be at the
Joby Art Center.
Okay, and so what's going to go on at the networking extravaganza?
It's really networking. I often say we don't network like we used to. I've hosted networking events and all sorts of interactions when I was really a youngster in this professional world. I used to go to all of these networking events because I understood the ladder, the opportunity by knowing the right people. Everyone always said it's a who you know world, and so I took that approach. now that we live in this sort of digital social media world, I don't see the relationships happen. I don't see the real conversations. I can still go to my phone and text people, for opportunities and things of that nature. And so we need to get there. And the only way you get there is, having real relationships. And so I heard someone, recently on a podcast mention, the number one selling secret is not your product, it's not what you have, it's who's making the call. And so that changes everything.
Yes.
When we think about, who's, getting people to events, getting people on program. If you can say, I know that person, and as I had a mentor tell me, it's not just who you know, it's who knows you, because a lot of people say, I know such and such, but will they pick up that phone?
Right.
When you call, a lot of people say, I know Beyonce, but does Beyonce know you? That makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
And so we try to get people, and so that's the idea of that. And then we give people a mix. I mean, this is a brand new art center. It's in the 18th and Vine district. Beautiful facility. And so, we have some art presentations as part of that experience. But it's really about networking. We call it Hues. And it's really kind of bringing those different elements together, whether it's, culture, whether it's different professions, all of this blended mix. And that's the beauty of it. Sometimes, you think, well, if I'm an engineer, I just want to go to the engineering.
Right.
Well, that's not necessarily the case. You want to do that, but you come across people that's now married to an engineer, or you see.
Yes.
So these relationships, once you establish these relationships, they can go far by creating these bonds. And some of these people you meet, they may benefit you, but so you should think about that, but also think about how you can be of service to people, when you have these conversations. So that importance of having live opportunities, and again, another free event. So
Absolutely. And I think, you've mentioned relationships several times, and when we're talking about networking, and I think also, especially with this generation and what they've gone through relative to COVID and the isolation and getting people once again in front of each other and being able to have conversations. And I think really we almost have to, either deprogram or really teach this generation about what conversation is, because they're used to abbreviating everything, and and so it's like, no, to look someone in the eye when you're talking to them. A lot of the things that we learned growing up that were just either you learned through natural socialization, or there were things that you interacted with, but COVID just drove a wedge, and I think also just kind of isolated people in ways that we're really kind of just now seeing the effects of. And so, getting people in front of each other and having that opportunity to have those conversations and really build strong relationship, I think is so important.
And I think it's ironic that the very generation that hasn't built these skills is the generation that is seeking jobs in an AI world.
Right.
But when Lorin knows Ken, I know HR said that the AI bot went through 1,000 resumes and it did a good job. But let me tell you about Ken.
Right.
And that's why he will get a phone call. And so having that person who can vouch for you. But then networking is an exchange, and I think that's a philosophy as well. What to Ken's point, what am I bringing to the conversation, and not just about transacting?
Right.
And what seeds am I planting that might flourish in years to come? And so I think it's ironic that this skill of networking has sort of atrophied at the same time that it's so important and the bots are taking over.
Right.
And so it's good timing, and we should do more of it, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. And so, once again, that networking extravaganza, July 18th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. is the Joe Bar. And that's 1801 East 18th Street in the 18th and Vine district. Like you said, another free event and an opportunity to get in front of business owners, brothers from 100 Black Men, and any other number of folks from the community. And so want to encourage everyone to take advantage of it. And so then we move into Saturday. And we have the Biz and Invest Growth Expo. And that's from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Kaufman Center, which is at 4801 Rock Hill Road. And so for that event, what can folks expect starting at 8:30 in the morning?
Yeah, so that's where we get to the last two pieces of the quadrant, so business and investment. And so we have, for the 3 days, we actually have 20 different panels. Wow. So we start off with 3 with the career and hiring fair, and then we have 17 just on that Saturday alone. And so 8:30 we start off with networking and just getting everyone set for the day, and then we have panels. And so for several topics, we have investment, for instance. So we have 2 separate panel sessions on investment. So one for those just getting started and need the fundamentals, and then more of an advanced. And so Lorin is leading that first one. So again, if you don't know where to start, if you need the keys to success and that pathway, Lorin's got a great team lined up to be a part of that. And so what I like to say, when people see, posts, anything that I do, especially in a financial area, you'll see me, if we have millionaires in the room, you'll see me announce that. And that's real, because what happens too often, there's a mindset shift that needs to happen. I've gone to, events. When you think about our community, we get it sort of set in our ways, and, not thinking about wealth, just paying bills, in other words. And so part of this is a mindset shift. And once you realize that there are people in the room that make millions or have millions, you ought to listen up. And so we have that on the business side and on the investment side, and people that are setting their marks. And so we give people the fundamentals, by through these sessions, but they're only an hour sessions. But we've got tools that they'll be able to walk away with as well. So we'll talk about that. But it's really just a great lineup. And one of the things that I worked on with our members is to kind of look at Kansas City as well. So, at one point you could see it seems like it was, month after month or every 2 weeks that black restaurants were trailing off and closing. Yeah. It's like, well, what can we do about that? So we've got a restaurant panel. And so we've got, someone from the Gates family. So how can you talk about restaurants and the success, and you think about the legacy? So so that's part of it, as well as another brother has Fifth and Emery, a yogurt shop. I think he has like 5 shops. Just opened up one, and has another one that he's launching. So again, when we talk about, is it possible? Well, I'm going to show you. What they see is what they'll be. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to give you the people, that are making their marks on the world. That, again, this idea that a lot of times, you can't get 15 minutes. We're going to give you these folks, and again, we're doing it free. So you can go down the line, whether it's investment, restaurant, retail, the same thing. Our retail panel. Just plenty. We've got somebody from Walmart coming in. We've got Dan Smith with the Porterhouse. They have a incubator and an 811 retail. We also have so many people again that have multiple venues, multiple stores, all part of just this particular experience. So you can go down the line and see all of these success stories of people that are actually making it. But they'll also give you the real. So they'll tell you about the challenges and the trouble, and that's sometimes hard to hear. But the more I learn about the folks that are succeeding, the more I hear about their failures as well. And so we want to provide that balance.
And I would say what I think people will enjoy is that these will not be lectures. These will be moderated conversations, not dissimilar from this one, where we're pulling out those nuggets that people can walk away with. We'll literally have a workbook where they have a game plan of prompts about just inspiring them to move their way through the cash flow quadrant. But then there are people that I heard and who I had an opportunity to ask questions of. And so I think that there's an education piece. There's a sort of beautiful, I would say, mix of information, of insights, of actions you can take so that you ultimately, to your point that you made offline, diversify your cash flow streams, which then gives your ability to drive wealth more durability.
Right. And, you made a point about, if there are millionaires in the room and you point them out. And I think especially in our community and specifically with our boys, them being able to see success outside of either hitting the ball or throwing a ball or shooting the ball into a hoop, and also recognizing that it's a process. This idea that, you're going to be famous and rich and sustain that, they make it seem like it's so easy through social media. And so getting in front of real people that have gone on real journeys and have sustainable success stories is so important for our boys to see.
And one of the things that I always say when talking to the high school students who are part of our financial literacy program, but is just as relevant for adults, is that we are intellectual athletes. We make so much of athleticism. And when Steph Curry's in the gym shooting free throws or shooting three-pointers for 5 hours, he's a hard worker. But when you decide to spend 3 full days at a conference like this, what are you?
Right.
I think you're an athlete. You're an intellectual athlete who's trying to drive their wealth.
Yes.
But we focus so much on athleticism, but in fact, this is your gym, and that's why people should come.
Absolutely. And I think it's important because oftentimes I know I'm guilty of it where I'll make it as if the kids are the ones who are focused on this, but this is what we prioritize as adults, and we're guilty of. And so when you have, like you said, opportunities to participate in events like this, just like you'll go spend 4 hours driving and sit
or
all
at a
day.
tailgate.
Yeah, exactly. This is something that can be beneficial to you and is free. And so definitely want to encourage our audience. And so, like I said, Saturday's event is from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. and you're at the Kaufman Center at 4801 Rock Hill Road. And once again, register for free at Power100Summit.com, where you can see what panels are available, what you're interested in. If you're going to the job fair, like you said, see what employers are there, and what lane is for you. The thing you talked about with the artist and them being able to, come and really show their work in real time. I know I'm older, so maybe that's the thing now. But I just had never heard of that being available in this sort of an environment. So
38 minutes in.
Okay, and so kudos to you for having the vision to bring all of these pieces together.
Yeah, and just this idea of the sports. instead of kicking the ball or shooting the ball and all that, we've taken the other side in terms of the business side. So the one paid opportunity people have, we have a luncheon, our World Cup luncheon. So that's the talk of the town right now, World Cup. And so how can you find, the business opportunities there? So we've got people that are coming from the city. We've got people that are coming from the FIFA Kansas City World Cup team that are there, and to give you, exactly what the opportunities are as they know it at the moment. And, so again, we've got, power players, we've got the city involved, we've got the World Cup folks all at one particular event, and so you can participate in that. And so since a luncheon is part of that's a $15 ticket if you want the luncheon as part of that experience. So again, that's 17 sessions just on that Saturday alone. And so again, over those 3 days, 20 sessions that we have, and again, they're just power packed. And again, we want people to actually leave the same way we think about the career and hiring fair. We want people to leave with jobs. We want people, in terms of after they go to Lorin's session, to be to be setting up their accounts,
right,
and to that level. I mean, it's no more time to say I'll do it tomorrow. Everything is about today in terms of this experience. It's real time. And
absolutely. We'll have here's 10 mutual funds that you should research this weekend. Here's 15 websites. Go get it.
Okay.
And so that's where we're trying to take it.
Okay, so we are actually up against our second break. So if you're just tuning in, you are listening to 90.1 FM KKFI, Kansas City Community Radio. This is Changing Narratives with Brother Jay and our guests Lorin Crenshaw and Ken Lumpkins, and we'll be back after this quick break. And we want to welcome you back to Changing Narratives and our guests, Lorin Crenshaw and Ken Lumpkins. And before we went to break, we were talking about the 3-day summit, and want to encourage everyone to go to Power100Summit.com to register and learn about the weekend's events that will be taking place July 17th through the 19th. But for ongoing, for the organization ongoing, and want to encourage everyone to go to 100blackmenkc.com for information on the local chapter. And so we want to talk to you about the mentoring program, the ongoing mentoring program, with 100 Black Men being the largest African American mentoring program in the country. Talk to us about Project Pathfinder and what that entails, and folks that may want to get involved.
Right. So mentoring again is what the organization sees as the foundation, and we actually say mentoring the 100 way for a lifetime, because we start with youth and the kids, but we really go to adults as well, meaning that some of these things, when you see us creating these opportunities, is because we get calls from adults say, I'm looking for a job, or women that say, I need help with my son or my nephew. And so it really spans the entire age spectrum. But for our youth in particular, that's the heart of our organization, and especially our young men, our Black boys. And so here locally, we've done a variety of different mentoring programs, but what we have is our Project Pathfinder, which is our 4th Saturday mentoring program, and it's really for those junior high to high school students. And so the idea is to pass on some of these lessons, and it will span in terms of everything from life skills to social skills, conflict resolution in terms of topics, but also even this career piece. And so our mentoring chair is John Brown, and that includes field trips. And so I know a few weeks ago they just went to Arrowhead Stadium to tour that. And when we have those experiences, it's not just to see, but it's to learn about all the opportunities, from a professional standpoint. And so we can, again, show our youth spaces outside of their normal environment in a lot of cases. And so Project Pathfinder, the other nice piece about it is not just about them passing on information to them. They actually start with a service activity where they're feeding, helping distribute groceries and food to those in need. And so that's how the Saturday starts out with them giving that idea of service first before we get to lessons, before we talk about, all of these opportunities. And so that's the core of the program. So we encourage anyone just to go to our mentoring tab at 100blackmenkc.com to find out how you can get involved. We encourage volunteers, both men and women, for our program in general. So if you're interested in volunteering, we accept both for different roles. You may be the speaker. You may be helping on site at a particular duty. You may be training. There's so many different opportunities, but we want to embrace all of our young folks that we can. So we encourage you to get involved. And this same summit weekend is an opportunity for you to touch base with us, to get signed up and find out more through the weekend. So you can do that as well.
Okay. And so, Lorin, the financial literacy is your baby. And so talk to us about dollars and cents and that financial program that is available for teens.
Absolutely. Well, at the core of the organization is mentoring. However, there are 4 pillars, and under the economic development and empowerment pillar, we do things like this conference. But then on an annual basis, our target are high school students. And between January and March, and then we have a culminating event in April, we execute about a 10-week financial literacy program where we take students grade 9 to 12 from knowing whatever they know when they come in the room to teaching them the fundamentals of this cash flow quadrant, basically. Savings and investing. Savings, you're the CFO of you. Are you cash flow positive? How do you develop a budget? Well, the same way you develop it for a business. You're looking at inflows and outflows. Then when you have your emergency fund, let's talk about investing and how you do that, I would say prudently, which is typically through mutual funds. But then we have fun with a stock picking game where we give them 100,000 virtual dollars to invest, and then cash prizes for the person with the biggest portfolio. And then ultimately, they crack a case at the Gym Theater where we had 5 students who will ultimately win locally the opportunity to present before an audience at the Gym Theater and a set of judges what they think Ken Lumpkins and his wife should do with that big pot of money that they have or what have you. And so they look at a case and they go from knowing very little to actually giving advice. And then we take those 2 students and take them to nationals where they crack another case study. And this year I'm proud to say that Layla Cranston of St. Teresa's and Langston Humphreys of Rockhurst High School are the national champions for the 100 Black Men of America. Wow. They defeated 17 teams and ultimately 2 on a national stage where they perform brilliantly with regard to cracking the case. And they are the best example of what I say, intellectual athletes that I can find. And so that's not our only goal. We do play to win. But we started with 100 students. And so our fundamental goal is to grow that program and to teach those 100 students the fundamentals. But then we do intend to win. And that would be my 3rd or 4th national championship. And so we look to keep that trophy here in Kansas City. And we will enroll again in the fall. And so you go to our website and we will enroll again in the fall to start in January. So that's not live right now, but be on the lookout.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, so, like you said, national champion from Kansas City around financial literacy. And when we're talking about Black children being exposed and expanding their visions, that's just so important.
Absolutely.
And, like you said, I don't want to beat up on athletes because I think it's important as well. But we definitely have got to diversify.
That's right. That's right.
What we are prioritizing. And so I want to thank you guys for this conversation. And also, before I get to my closing, anything that you guys want to say before we get up out of here? And we'll start with you, Lorin.
You know, I would just say that what I really enjoy about the 100 Black Men is that you have Black men coming together who are giving real time and allocating that time towards the issues that are so important in our community. And I would encourage brothers who are interested to express that interest. And I think this is going to be an exciting weekend coming up, and encourage everyone to come.
All righty, Brother Ken.
And I would just say one thing we didn't touch on is that word power. You know, we talk about the 100, you know, this idea of coming together. But when you think about making an impact, you know, we've gone through the election, and everyone always comes back to we need to do for ourselves. And that's kind of the idea. If we understand the game, we can do for ourselves. If we come together collectively, we can do for ourselves. And that's where that power really comes from. And so that's the power behind that Power 100. Let's understand not only the opportunity, but the need. I mean, there are real-time risks out there,
Yes.
you know, from a social perspective, civil history, you know, everything is at risk. And the more we can get some of this wealth and equity on our side, it benefits us all, and especially, you know, just this education course. So let's get this power.
Absolutely. And so I want to thank you both for joining me today and for the powerful work you're both doing with 100 Black Men of Greater Kansas City. From financial literacy to mentoring to job readiness and leadership development, it's clear that your programs are not only inspiring young people, but also equipping them with the tools they need to succeed. And so to our listeners, if you're looking to support an organization that's building real pathways to success for our youth and uplifting our entire community, I encourage you to learn more, volunteer, or donate. And so I want to encourage you to go to Power100Summit.com to register for the events that will be taking place through July 17th through the 19th. And go to 100 Black Men of KC to learn more .com about their organization and ways in which you can contribute. And so I want to once again thank you guys for coming. Keep leading, keep building, and thank you for helping us change the narrative.
No, thanks for having us.
We appreciate it. And so we'll be back next week with another program, and please stay tuned at the top of the hour for Roots Wise Reggae. And we're out.